A landmark defence inquiry has found credible information of killings, abuse and cover-ups by Australian soldiers in Afghanistan. Here are the key findings of the Inspector General's confronting report. There is credible information that Australian forces were involved in the murders of 39 Afghan civilians and prisoners. 2 more Afghans were found to have been cruelly treated. The inquiry is recommending 19 soldiers face investigation by the Australian Federal Police. Special Forces soldiers allegedly covered up the crimes, with weapons being placed next to the bodies of victims. The inquiry also found that junior troops were being forced into blooding exercises to shoot prisoners to get their first kill. None of the incidents that were investigated were considered to have occurred during the heat of battle. The troops in question were found to have understood the laws of war. And Special Forces were found to have hindered the inquiry, favouring loyalty over providing truthful accounts. The ABC's Defence correspondent Andrew Green joins me now from Canberra. Andrew, the Defence Force Chief labelled the alleged atrocities and pattern of behaviour exposed by this report as shameful.
He did, and he looked visibly shaken, it has to be said, General Campbell. It was an uneasy press conference to watch, and one that perhaps shocked people who were even well aware of what was potentially about to be announced in this report. It seemed to go further than many had been anticipating, and we got details, as you mentioned, of at least 39 murders committed by Australian Special Forces involving 25 current or former personnel, and 19 of those are now likely to face further attention from federal police, as this report recommends prosecutions be attempted against them. The General Angus Campbell spoke about some shameful incidents. He talked about the stain that this had cast on the many thousands of Australians who'd served in Afghanistan for the 12-year conflict. But he began the press conference by speaking to, firstly, the victims in Afghanistan and also an apology to the people of Australia. Let's hear from the Chief of Defence, General Angus Campbell.
To the people of Afghanistan, on behalf of the Australian Defence Force, I sincerely and unreservedly apologise for any wrongdoing by Australian soldiers. I've spoken directly with my Afghan counterpart, General Zia, to convey this message. Such alleged behaviour profoundly disrespected the trust placed in us by the Afghan people, who had asked us to their country to help them. It would have devastated the lives of Afghan families and communities, causing immeasurable pain and suffering. And it would have put in jeopardy our mission and the safety of our Afghan and coalition partners. And to the people of Australia, I am sincerely sorry for any wrongdoing by members of the Australian Defence Force. You're right to expect that your Defence Force will defend your nation and its interests in a manner that accords with our nation's values and laws.
Andrew, what has the report found specifically about the culture within the SAS?
Well, it certainly talked about the secrecy within that unit, which is already well known, but also about the warrior culture that was allowed to get out of hand during this lengthy conflict. It did also talk about the blame being put on the number of rotations and the fact that the same elite soldiers were called upon again and again. But disturbingly, there were accounts of patrol commanders and a lot of attention placed on the corporals and sergeants who were often instructing junior soldiers to carry out the executions and then cover them up in what was known as blooding, to get these younger soldiers to have their first kills on the battlefield. Let's hear now again from General Campbell discussing this aspect.
Those alleged to have been unlawfully killed were all people under control in lay terms, prisoners, farmers, or other civilians. This shameful record includes alleged instances in which new patrol members were coerced to shoot a prisoner in order to achieve that soldier's first kill in an appalling practice known as blooding. Further to this, throwdown weapons and radios were also reportedly planted to support claims that people killed were enemy killed in action.
General Angus Campbell speaking at Defence Headquarters earlier today. Now, there are a number of immediate repercussions for Australia's Special Forces. General Campbell revealed that the Chief of Army is today at SAS Headquarters in Perth, telling the members of that elite regiment that the 2nd Squadron, which comes under a lot of scrutiny in this report, will be immediately disbanded. That's a very significant move from the ADF, and also that a group meritorious citation given to Special Forces who took part in the war in Afghanistan from 2007, that will also be withdrawn. The CDF says that this will come as a particularly bitter blow for many of the men who served in that rotation and did so with distinction and honour, but have had their service stained by the actions of some mentioned in this report.
Defence correspondent Andrew Green. If you are a serving or former member of the Defence Force or a relative in need of support, you can call the Defence Family Helpline on 1800 624 608. Open Arms on 1800 011 046, and of course assistance is available at Lifeline on 13 11 14.